Welcome to the men's room. My name is Ilya Schur. I'm filling in for Mark Sparks. And today we have a special guest with us, Wayne Elise, aka the Juggler, CEO of Charisma Arts.
Well, thank you, Ilya. I appreciate you being here and introing me. And I'm glad to be at the men's room. When people told me I was going to be in the men's room, I thought it was in a bathroom. So I'm a little put off that we just have a regular room. I was getting ready. I brought some toilet paper.
Neil Strauss's book, The Game, that's considered by some to be the Bible of the seduction community. Mm-hmm. How do you think that book has changed your life?
I never thought, I wrote the chapter, and I mostly wrote it about Neil. One reason I wrote it about Neil, it's from my perspective, our times together, but one reason I wrote it about him was because I was so afraid. I didn't want him to write about me because I was so afraid what he might write. It's like, I don't want him to write. I'll write. I was like, Neil, let me write about you. Let me write my own chapter. Because at first he just wanted to write about me. I'm like, let me write my own thing. And so I wrote the chapter for him, which I think is a great chapter. A lot of people tell me it's a good chapter. But yeah, that book definitely changed things because it brought so much attention out in the open. I guess it led in the sense to me doing TV shows and things like this. That before everything was kind of like, on the internet, and we'd have code names, Juggler. So now it's suddenly out there. But I think that's good. I think bringing something to the attention is good. It's definitely, it's changed my life. It definitely made our business bigger and gave me some opportunities I didn't otherwise have. And I think Neil did a great job with the book. It's a wonderful book in a lot of ways. I don't agree with everything in the book, but I do agree with the idea that, men want to change their lives. This is something we all struggle with. When you're 16 years old, we all know it. Everybody knows it. Your fantasy is to be able to get girls easily and in abundance. That's just how it is. It's how guys are built. Now, later on, you realize other things are important, like, a relationship and things like that are valuable as well. But it's something we all want to conquer. Everybody wants to feel as if they have the ability to go meet a beautiful girl walks by, we can go up and talk to her. Everybody wants to be able to do that and be our best self at doing that. So I think it's a book that just spoke to so many people, so many guys, that I think it helped guys feel as if they're not alone in this quest. And I think that's one of the great things that the book did.
What are your core principles in terms of teaching men to be better with women?
Well, I think more people have to understand that to be charismatic with a woman, to walk up and make someone like you, you have to not necessarily be other than what you are, but you have to actually be real. But at the same time, make the other person be real. Because if two people can be real together, then anything's possible. If you're not real, then you're building a castle out of sand. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be yourself in the same way that you come up and just be lame. We all want to have new skills and be able to approach people, and there are new things you have to learn. But you have to come across as a real authentic person. And that's the biggest challenge is to be an authentic person, but also make people be authentic with you. I'll give you a for instance, okay? Let's say you meet a girl at a bar or someplace, and within 2 minutes she says to you, or let's say 1 minute. Within 1 minute she asks you, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that question? I'll pose it to you. How do you answer the question, Elliot?
Well, I would tell her I'm in sales.
You're in sales.
And try to make some self-deprecating comment about salesmen.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Well, that's a mistake.
Okay. Tell me why.
That's a mistake because it's a mistake answering a question because she doesn't care. She doesn't care at that moment. She's simply making conversation because she's afraid of intimacy. A lot of people are afraid of intimacy. She's asking you a question so you don't get to know her, but does she really care? No, she doesn't care about the answer to her question. She doesn't really care about you because she hasn't known you long enough. In 1 minute, she doesn't have time to really care. So what happens is if you fall for that, you're basically falling for someone being not real. And as soon as she realizes that you start answering that question, she thinks, here's a sucker. For one, she thinks you're a sucker because she kind of knows, okay, you're not, why is he answering this question? I don't really care about it. I can't believe he believes I really cared about this. And two, she's not putting her real self out there. And when she's not putting her real self out there, you don't have any reason to continue the interaction. Like we always need reasons to continue getting to know someone, and that reason has to come from the other person. So if she doesn't tell you anything interesting about herself, she doesn't tell you something that sparks your desire or imagination, there's no reason you would continue the conversation. The thing is, she's not giving you anything, and she doesn't want to give you anything. So her defense to you getting to know her is to ask you a question, to keep you on guard. But she doesn't really care about that. So the answer is, you don't answer the question. You lose if you answer the question. What you say is, you ask her, you say, let me ask you, do you really care about that or just making conversation? And then she'll say, hopefully she'll say, no, I don't really care about that. And you'll say, yeah, good, let's talk about something we both care about. And then you're in a much stronger, real position rather than going down a path that no one really cares about, and it's an unreal conversation. Because when someone asks you questions so quickly, that's them trying to distract you from where you really want to go. It's distracting them and you from getting to know the real person. When we walk up to some girl in a bar, believe me, she doesn't care about you. She cares about herself more than anything else. You know, if she appears like she cares about you, she doesn't. She won't care about you yet until you care about her. You got to care about people first, and then they can care about you.
Well, that's one principle, authenticity.
Yeah.
What else would you say is important when it comes to being better with women?
Oh, the ability to create pictures, the ability to understand what women want. What they want is they want images of the two of you doing things together. They want, one of the great things you can say to a woman, like for instance, you could say what you'd like to do with her. You'd say, I would like to take a walk with you holding hands in Soho with a camera. We get a black and white camera, walk through Soho, taking pictures of each other. That's something that's very evocative. It creates an emotional picture of something that the two of you would do together. And being able to do that, understand how to create pictures that people want to desire and really want to fulfill these pictures is a really powerful thing. And it goes for little simple things like that, but also sex, being able to say to a girl like, hey, I really want to bite your neck right now. Being able to say what you want to see happen. And a lot of guys don't realize the importance of being able to articulate what they would like to see happen. It's your desire that turns women on mostly. Without you desiring their unique self, there's no sexuality to it. So it's being able to articulate that and within pictures, within very vivid pictures that are emotive and something that the person really desires. That's another thing that they should be working on, I believe. It's hard because it's something that guys usually don't do. We're very linear, we're very fact-driven, and we forget that not everyone's like that. The opposite sex isn't like that. Guys make the mistake of working too much on logistics. Like they'll get a text. For instance, I'll give you an example. A client of mine, he called me up on the phone. He's like, okay, I met this girl, wonderful girl. I really like this girl. But I sent her a text. And I said, in the text, I said, what are you doing on Monday? And he never heard from her again. She never texted back. And I said to him, the problem is you're working on logistics. You're working on trying to arrange something before creating the desire for that thing. So what I want you to do now is send another text, but I want you to make a picture. And we sit down and kind of worked on it together. And what he sent was something to the effect of, hey, I can't wait to see you. If we go out on a date, this is what it's going to be like. We'll go to my favorite restaurant, and then we'll take a walk outside where we can see the Statue of Liberty and hopefully hold hands, and I'll try to kiss you and try my other two jokes on you. Hopefully I can make you laugh. And we'll do this all under starlight. So he created an actual picture. And he sent this, and about 5 minutes later, she sent back a text, and the text said, verbatim, it said, when can we make this happen? Men should be speaking women language in a sense. We should be speaking the language of pictures and images and imagery and these evocative pictures so that women can say, oh, I really want this, I desire this. The desire's got to come first, okay? And then they should speak our language, which is the language of logistics, of making things happen. Really, don't try to make something happen. Instead, try to create a picture and let her go, oh, when can we make this happen? Let her figure out the timing and the dates and the days and things like that. Let her try to work on that. You should be working on trying to speak her language and create these pictures in her mind, in her imagination. Because once something is in someone's imagination and they start to think about it, it starts to marinate. Take a line from cooking, starts to marinate. And that marination, that thinking about it, just makes the picture stronger. And then they seek to desire it.
Now, Wayne, what do you think are some common problems that men face in terms of getting better with women? And what do you suggest they do about breaking through those sticking points?
One of the biggest problems is just what we call approach anxiety, the fear of approaching someone new. Right. The fear of instigating, or I would say instigating, but initiating a conversation with a stranger. It's something we all fear because most people just don't do it on a daily basis. And I think the guys are always looking for a way to come up with a new way to approaching a girl that they don't have to feel the fear. They want to come up with a way that they can simply, it's so good it will always work, therefore they won't be afraid of it. But the fact is that's not very realistic. What's realistic is understanding that you're always going to fear this and you have to do it anyway. So what you want to acquire is the habit of approaching fear, the habit of feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And so we should all go around our day and say to ourselves, what social fear do I have right now? And once you know what that is, go do it anyway and acquire that habit. and don't worry about perfection. So many guys want to come up and they want to do it well.
Right.
Well isn't good enough. Just do it. That's what's good enough. And if you're trying to make it perfect, you're just not going to do it. I'll give you, for instance, there was a girl last summer. Beautiful girl. I saw her walking down the street one day, and I said to myself, if I ever see that girl again, I'm going to go talk to her. And I kind of kicked myself that I didn't at that time. So it was a few months later, and I saw the girl walking. I was living in Ann Arbor at the time, so she was walking through the campus, and I saw her, and I walked right up to her, and I was like, I got to tell you that I saw you the other day, and I thought that here's this beautiful girl, and I should come talk to her. And I was really inarticulate and very nervous, and I thought I was really sucking at it. That was awful. But I kept the conversation going. We ended up getting a number, and we ended up going out later on. And about a month later, she learned about what I do, that I teach guys how to meet girls and teach charismatic arts. And she says to me one day, we're drinking some wine outside. She says to me, Wayne, I should have known you were a pickup artist. I don't really call myself that, but she's like, I should have known you were a pickup artist because of the confident way you came up and approached me. Mm-hmm. I was like, what? I didn't feel confident. I felt nervous, actually. I've been doing this for a long time. I still felt nervous. And I felt like I didn't do it very well. But that's not how she saw it. And a lot of times we don't understand that just by mere approaching, that shows a lot of courage. And that itself is a very sexy thing. And most of the time, women and people we're talking to and approaching, they're in their own heads. They're not really conscious of how nervous we are. We feel like we're much more nervous than we really are.
Of course, yeah.
And you'll be surprised how well you just come off just by doing it. You get a lot of points, let's say, just by being courageous. And I think that a lot of guys are always looking for the perfect situation to approach a girl. There's no perfect situation. You want to do it sometimes when it's not perfect because that shows more courage, and courage itself is sexy. Without courage, then you don't really have much. People say confidence is sexy. I think courage is more sexy.
So courage. What other personal qualities do you think women find especially attractive in a man?
I think the ability to articulate yourself. I think women, for the most part, find intelligent men attractive. There's always I can't say every woman finds these qualities attractive, but right. I think intelligence is pretty universal. I remember I was in a bar teaching in Atlanta a couple months ago, and I was talking to a beautiful girl and her male friend, and we got to talking, and I was interested in this girl, but she saw this guy walk by, and this guy was the best looking guy I've probably ever seen in person. Like, that guy is so good looking. She was just staring at him. I was like, yeah, is that guy good looking? She's like, yeah, that guy's good looking. I said to her, I was like, I'm going to bring him over so he can meet you. She's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm like, he's probably stupid. She's like, yeah, I don't want my expectation blown. I just want to believe what I want to believe. So don't bring him over because he'll be stupid. I'm like, no, he might not be. He might be intelligent. We should give him the benefit of the doubt. So I go get the guy. She was completely embarrassed. I was like, come on, come join us. So I brought him to the table and I introduced him. And this guy was dumb as bird poop. He came across, I don't know if he really was, but he came across very inarticulate and kind of stupid, frankly. And I just laughed and laughed. I said to her male friend, like, this is so funny. And I let him talk for a while, and she was just kind of rolling her eyes. You could see the traction just plummet at that point. And eventually I told him, well, thanks for being here. Good luck, and just let him go. That was his cue to leave. But, it's intelligence that I think a lot of women find attractive. Intelligence, of course, women find physique, certain things, but I think intelligence and articulation, I think, are even more attractive qualities than some physical things. And I always encourage guys to work on their articulation, work on their unique perspective. Like, so much of what we say these days, we just hear repeated, and we're just repeating something. So I always encourage people to have unique perspective. Think about things and read. Read books, like, especially for girls, read books that they read. Read Jane Austen. One of my favorite books is I Captured a Castle by Dodie Smith, who wrote 101 Dalmatians. Great girl book. It's one of my favorite books, actually. Being in touch of, like, the things that women like, I think, helps. I don't think you should read Cosmo or anything like that, but read, like, classical characters. I think Wuthering Heights is another great book. That every woman can identify with some of the characters there. Another thing, I think that women like Women like a guy who cares about people. They don't like the nice guy per se, because the nice guy seems very artificial and fake. Why is he being nice? We don't really know. Often girls do like the bad boy because the bad boy seems like he's real. He actually has real emotions. He's a real person. But being caring and being a good person is not a bad thing. And I think that you can be authentic and real and still be caring and a good person. Being a confident person often is also about being vulnerable. And I think so many of us are unwilling to be vulnerable because we think, oh, we got to be strong, we got to prove our value and all these things. But oftentimes it's just basically being vulnerable with someone. Telling someone your fears can also be a sexy thing, can also be an attractive quality. So I don't hesitate to really do that anymore. I tell people what I'm afraid of because I know that it makes a connection. It makes them feel like I'm a real person as much as possible. So I'm always trying to push the envelope to try to see how real I can be. And that doesn't mean like being offensive. You still got to be polite and all those things. But I want to tell people really what's on my mind, how I really feel about things. And I want them to do the same thing. And if they don't, I call it out. If I feel somebody's giving me something canned that they said a million times, I'll say, it sounds like you say it to everybody. I want something original just for me. And then they understand that I'm a person who wants an authentic, real connection, nothing that's just canned or fake. So much of what makes someone attractive isn't like a big thing. I always look at it as scales, if you can imagine scales. And oftentimes we try to think, okay, we're just going to put something big right here, and it's going to tip the scales, and I'm going to be this attractive person. Often it's not anything big. It's like many little things, and little things add up over time, and pretty soon, boom, you become this person who you weren't before. The problem is a lot of guys think of too big of chunks. They're thinking, I got to get this chunk. Once I get this idea or I mastered this program, then suddenly I'm going to be this attractive person. It's rarely the case in my experience. It's usually a number of very small changes that add up to a big change and make you a better person, I would say, a more attractive person.
So gradually building social skills and building attractive qualities.
Yeah, gradually and really focusing on one thing at a time is really key. The way that we learn, I've spent a lot of time thinking about the way that people learn these skills. And it's easily when someone goes out into the field to try these things, it's easy for them to get overwhelmed because they're trying so many things at once. They're trying to do this formula, or just trying to do this routine or something. And they get overwhelmed because they're trying to do everything at once when they should be working on one small aspect and just working on that for until they master it, whether it takes days or weeks.
The term pickup artist, that has a sort of sleazy, maybe
it does, it has a negative
connotation to it.
Yeah.
But if Charisma Arts, you teach being a good person in terms of being attractive to women.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the term pickup artist? I mean, do you consider yourself one?
Well, I have two minds about the word pickup artist. I don't like the word. People call me that at times or say I have been in the past. I don't really call myself a pickup artist. It does have a lot of negative connotations. I think at one time in my life I thought, okay, maybe I could change the way that people think about the word. But I think that's impossible. I think it's always going to have negative connotations with most people. So I kind of moved away from it. I think the word pickup artist seems as if you're being disingenuous and you're manipulating people. And that's not what we're about. I think manipulation, people's skills sounds, it can easily make people think that you're manipulating them. But what we really teach isn't necessarily manipulation. It's almost like already in social interactions, there is normal manipulation. It's like imagine a ball spinning, right? If a ball is spinning, what we teach is basically how to stop that spin. They're spinning, the person you're meeting spinning, you're spinning. Let's just stop that spin and actually have two things that are not spinning and real and authentic and come together. The problem with trying to manipulate a situation is that it's a principle of commitment. You can when people value interactions based on how much effort they've put into it, okay? So if people overcommit to something, if they put in a lot of effort, too much effort, more than the relationship is worth, they can easily become overcommitted, or they value something more than its intrinsic value. And what happens when a guy tries to manipulate a situation, he thinks he's being clever and he's doing something to manipulate the other person into liking him. But the problem is he's really harming himself because he's using effort to manipulate the situation. He's spending all this time and energy and thought trying to manipulate how someone perceives him. Because he's spending so much effort, he, in a sense, is making a mistake of committing more than the interaction necessarily is worth at that moment. And so he's overcommitted. It becomes so valuable to him that he can't have a natural interaction. when you're with your friends, when you're with people you know well, when you're at your charismatic best, what do you like? You're kind of loose. You're not trying to manipulate anybody. You're just kind of having fun. You're almost dangerous in your looseness. You don't care that much. You don't care too much. You're a little bit, you're almost a little dangerous and you're not caring too much. I don't mean about people, but about how you're perceived, right? So you want to have that way with everybody because that's when you're at your charismatic best. If you're trying to manipulate a situation, you're actually doing the opposite of that. You're caring so much that you're trying to spin it. And when you're trying to spin it, you're putting so much effort into it, you're overcommitting. And that's the opposite of having this loose sort of charismatic air that we want people to have. I think loose, dangerous, that's what you want. I like what they said about Byron the poet. When he died, they put on his tombstone, mad, bad, and dangerous to know. That's what we're going for. Some things you just got to be you, completely be kind of dangerous and just let the chips fall where they may. That's what's sexy, not trying to manipulate your image somehow.
Yeah, so Wayne, I want to ask you, why are you in this career? What do you get out of it? What do you like about it?
Well, that's a very good question. I like that question. I like seeing the effect that it has on people. I like seeing the changes. I think every guy out there wants to change himself and become a better man. We all do. I do. Everybody does. And I enjoy seeing people being able to complete that journey. I think that's exciting. That's interesting. So I enjoy that. I travel a great deal, so I'm able to go to interesting places for me. I'm able to travel a lot. So.
Traveling around so much, do you find it difficult to maintain a relationship?
Oh, it's true. Yeah, very true. I was married a year and a half ago. I actually got divorced. I was married for a couple of years to a wonderful girl, but part of what really harmed our relationship was the traveling. And I know other guys, many guys have jobs where they have to travel. Maybe it's in a car, an airplane. And I was gone a lot, and it really did harm our relationship. So now I know, like the girl I'm sort of seeing now, she is in the traveling, so it's cool. But I'll tell you this: make sure when you get married that that's definitely the one. That's the best sort of advice I can get. Make sure that's the total person for you. If you're not absolutely sure, then don't do it. And just be caring. Most people are not caring enough in relationships. And don't play games. Sometimes when I feel like I could play the games, I could do this, and I'm like, it just gives me a headache thinking about how much work that would be. It's just better just to tell the girl how you feel. It's like, I'm mad at you for this, or I feel this way, and just start there. It's so much easier. The reason people like you is because they think that you really like them. That's the real reason. They like you because you like them, but they've got to feel you really like them. They have to feel there's an actual, genuine reason that you like them specifically. And so you have to create the conditions that will give you those things. And if you don't create those conditions, then when you try to make out with the girl, she's going to freak out because she's going to go, why me? Why do you like me? I don't have any reason why. I haven't done anything to deserve your attention. I could be any girl. And then she perceives your value as low because she could be any girl. And that means you'd hook up with any girl. And that means your value is low. So you've got to do the opposite of that and make her put her real self out and then say, hey, I like that about you. Therefore, I want to make out with you. I feel a little gay saying that to you personally, but yeah.
Just as an example.
Yeah, just as an example.
Now, what other tips you recommend for building attraction?
Building attraction. Well, I think a lot of guys spend a lot of time, too much time, thinking about how to build attraction, at least in the seduction community, as they call it. I think you should spend a lot more time creating the conditions where someone can open themselves up and talk to you. And we spend so much time trying to show the person how great we are. We spend very little time trying to think about how to create the conditions where the other person can show how great they are to us. So I think that's a big thing. It's like, don't get confused and like think you're gonna. It's like being a plumber, right? If you imagine a leaking pipe, do you reach in your toolbox and take out a hammer and bang on it? No, you take out a pipe wrench and you got to take the right tool. And many guys are using the wrong tool because they think, she's not into me right now, or this isn't really working, so I just got to show her how much cooler I am or how much value I have, which is the mistake. What you really got to do at that moment is chill out and let her show value to you. But having said that, I think attraction is one of those things that there's always going to be a particular taste. Women are always going to have a particular taste in guys. However, I think there's things that are pretty universal. It's intelligence and good grooming, obviously. The ability to deal with people, I think the ability to socialize is itself a very attractive quality. I think when you walk up to a girl you're attracted to, and you're talking with her, and her friends start paying attention, bring her friends in and talk to them as well, because being able to handle yourself with people is a very attractive quality as well. Mostly just be yourself. Let the chips fall where they may. Some of the most attractive people I've ever known are the kind of guys who just like, that's how you either love them or hate them. That's just how they are.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily the most. They're usually nice, good people underneath it all, but they don't come across necessarily like perfect. And they come across as a little flawed, but they're completely okay with their flaws or let it hang out. I think those are very attractive kind of types of people.
So what would you say to men who think they'd be terrible with women, who think they're just hopeless?
Well, they might be. Let's face it, they might be. I don't know. But everybody can improve themselves. I think if you really want to prove you want to do what's necessary, I think it's possible. But you have to be devoted to it. And, I'm in the self-help industry, and the success ratio of the self-help industry as a whole is fairly low. My ex-wife, she was a fitness instructor, and she used to teach people to be fit. She would do instruction with them, personal training with them. And we moved out to California. We moved back to Michigan. She saw the same people. They were still out of shape. Yeah. It's like most people don't change because most people don't understand that, you take a class like ours, you learn these skills, you still have to put in a lot of work. It's about implementing them. It's about practicing them. That's the hard thing. It's like you can learn how to do something, but actually being able to do yourself takes time and takes effort. And a lot of people aren't willing to put in effort. But I think that if you put in the effort, I think you can make enough change that you'll become an attractive person.
Wayne, is there one final takeaway you can give us before we leave?
Yeah, certainly. I think that every journey starts with a first step. I know it's kind of cliched, but if you know where you want to go, if you know you want to go in that direction, take that first step. And that first step is, of course, like trying things out for yourself. And I think that you can go to our programs. That's great. We can teach you these things, but ultimately you have to take that first step for yourself. You have to have the courage to do that if you want to kind of change yourself and grow. And I think a lot of guys are afraid to do that. And we all need to sort of be able to take that first step and just understand you're not alone. There's other guys out here. We all have to do these things. And sometimes, especially with the charismatic arts, it's about doing these things in public many times. Guy talks to a girl on the subway, other people around. He's so worried that they're listening to him and judging him and those things. We've all been there. Do it anyway. Just do it. One of the things that I did before I was in this business is I did busking, street performing, right? So I'd get a crowd, do a show, and pass the hat. And one thing I learned when I first started doing this is that I had to be prepared to suck in front of people. And until you're ready to suck in front of people, you're committed that much, you'll never change with the social arts or whatever you want to call this, because you have to be willing to go through that process of embarrassing yourself almost with people until you get where you want to go. And I don't want to embarrass, we try not to embarrass our clients. We try to keep things, focused and low impact and stuff. But I think that there's a time you're just going to have to do it, and you're going to feel foolish, but you'll be surprised how much people will admire you for having the courage to do and go after what you want. And those people on the train, on the subway, you think that they're laughing at you. They might be a little bit, but down underneath, they're like, wow, I wish I had the guts to do that as well.
Okay, that's great. Wayne, great having you here.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Had a very interesting conversation.
That's right. I'll shake your hand then. All right, good. You got a good grip, man. You must be masturbating on. No, just kidding.